Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here and welcome to another review. And now I'm taking a look at Final Fight 2 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now this was actually a SNES-specific sequel, it was not released for the Mega Drive or other platforms at the time. It came out in 1993. Yeah, and you can see this is essentially following on from where the end of the first game left off. Not the greatest sound effect I've heard for lightning. Now the Mad Gear Gang are ready to strike back at those who oppose them. Their first move is to kidnap Guy's fiancée, Rina, and her father, Genryusei. When Rina's sister, Maki, learns of this, she immediately contacted Hager for help. And speaking of which, here's our friendly mayor himself. And Maki is one of the two new characters that you get to control in this game. Heading for Hong Kong, and I'm going after them. So, as you probably guessed, it's going to be starting off in Hong Kong. And here's our other character. Whose name's Carlos. No showing off in Mode 7 in the... So, unlike the previous game, you got four different difficulty levels. So you still only use the Y and B buttons, just like in the previous game. And here's another major difference. Whereas Final Fight on the SNES only catered for one player, and as did its semi-follow-up Final Fight Guy, here, for the first time in a SNES Final Fight game, it's got a simultaneous two-player option. And Maki being the first female and protagonist that you can control in a Final Fight game. So here's Mike Hager, the only character returning from the only protagonist returning from the previous game. Ooh. Looks like Mike's been learning from Zangief from Street Fighter 2, because there's some move. And I also know from a review I read back in the day that Mike Hager's also adopted Zangief's spinning pile driver. Look in the background, there's Chun-Li from Street Fighter 2 eating in that restaurant. Yeah, it still has a thing where if you do a special, the special move, it drains energy. So, as in the previous game, you have to be a bit sparing about how and when you use that. Well, having a two-player mode is certainly a massive step up from the previous game. It's hard to know what to actually say about the game, because it's essentially more of the same thing. And obviously, because I don't have a second person with me, I can't demonstrate the two-player mode. No, that was actually the CPU taking over from me there. Graphics are quite nice, and Mike Hagger's nice and big. This was actually a 16 megabit cartridge as far as I can tell, so there was more space for things, hence the reason they were able to put in a two-player mode, which was absent from the previous Final Fight games on the Super Nintendo. The sound effects are still a bit muddy. I mean, I know that the Super Nintendo's sound chip wasn't the best in the world, but I have heard, as I said in my review of the first Final Fight, I have heard better quality music than this on this machine. Or you can you got a whole, when you grab, you got a whole range of moves depending on which direction you press at the same time as the Y button. The animation's quite nice as well. Oh, I think I might have figured something out. Yeah, let's see if I can get this to work. Yeah, spinning pile driver. First seen in Street Fighter 2, now Mike Hagger gets to use it in this. You'll be pleased to know it's a lot easier to pull off in this game than it is in the Street Fighter series. You'll come at me with your cattle prods, will you? Oh, God. So that's one life down. Even though I selected the hard mode, which is the second hardest difficulty setting, I was kind of hoping there'd be a bit more of a challenge, but they don't seem to be causing me a huge amount of problems, the enemies in this. So that is a bit of a worry, that the fact that it seems to be a little bit rather too easy. I mean, this is a hard mode, and I'm absolutely destroying them. Ooh, first time I picked up a weapon. As in the previous game, after a while the weapons are lost irretrievably. I mean, I'd probably still play this game until I finished it. It's just that it doesn't seem to be massively challenging. I mean, there are points where the first final fight in both its incarnations was really quite tough, but this one. And oh God! Landed right on top of me. God, he likes landing on top of me, didn't he? Ooh, I even managed to do a spinning pile driver on 1-1. God, stop landing on top of me, you weirdo. Oh, I'm sure I was just out of range. Come here. Oh, he's not even registering any damage at him. Get over here. Oh, now he is. He ended in sight for you, 1-1. God, that's a pathetic amount of damage. Wait a minute. Punching him does more damage than a spinning pile driver. Come on, get on the screen. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm punching him doing just as much, if not more, damage than when I did the spinning pile driver on him. Yeah, those three... Dear goodness me, that makes no sense. I won 1 against 1-1. Round 1 clear. The final fight for the lives of Genryu Sai and Rina is about to begin. Looks like we're in Gay Paris. The Eiffel Tower in the background. Yeah, I'm still finding this a bit on the easy side. Shoes? Why am I picking up things like radios and shoes? Do they even do anything special? Or are they just points? Playability is pretty good, and the moves seem to be. There seems to be more moves in this than there were in the previous game, but then it did have a 16 megabit cartridge, whereas the original was constrained to 8 bits, which was the maximum time of developing the first game. Oh, crikey. You can actually take people out in mid-air with the spinning pile drive, that's nice. That's of course if you actually manage to hit them while you're in mid-air, obviously. Oh, there's nothing in that barrel. That's just... Andore, that's the only character I've seen return from the previous game, not counting Hagar. I'm sure that Hagar would be getting dizzy doing all those spinning pile drivers. You and your cattle prods, mate. Not poo sticks. Ellic. Get your cattle prods out of my face. And on to the next bit. Yeah. This is actually the first time I've played this, and I'm absolutely destroying a lot of people, which further convinces me that this game is a bit too easy. I mean, I'm actually, as you saw, I actually selected the hard difficulty level, and I'm barely even breaking a sweat. That's a nice effect. Kind of reminds me of what happens with Blanca. Usually that same sort of effect when he used his thunderstorm maneuver. I think it was called the thunderstorm maneuver. Well, otherwise, when Blanca gave someone a shocking experience. I'm sure that a fence like that wouldn't be that easy to break through, even from the mayor of a city, but it's only a game. We've got a tiny sliver of energy. No. Oh, goodness me. I literally just got poked with those forks of his and died. It would have been nice if there could have been some more combat moves. I mean, there seems to be more that you can do than in the previous game, but it's still not a huge amount more. Especially as they didn't, as I don't believe they had the same. Get off me! You've been learning off Edmund Honda, haven't you? Get off! I mean, it's still not a walk in the park, but it's not nearly as challenging as the first game. Elijah. Not Elijah Wood, I hope. I should be seeing you in the Shire, shouldn't I? L'air à l'aéroport. Nothing. There's going to be a lot of those containers with nothing in them in this. Oh, crikey. Oh, goodness me. Now I've got two Elix to contend with. No, get off. Eat that. It also has the same problem that this is starting to get a bit boring as well. It's really hard to have a beat 'em up like this with lasting appeal. Especially as there aren't that many more combat moves than in the first Final Fight, at least not on the Super Nintendo. What's that kind of sound effects there? I mean, it's just a dull thud. I mean, couldn't they have picked a better sound effect than that? I mean, you're hitting them with a great plank of wood and it's making a dull thud. It makes a more meaty sound when you punch or kick someone than it does to hit them with one of these things. Oh God! Last life. Attention. What are you trying to warn me about? Mad Gear members? A little bit of shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted there, methinks. I really wish they wouldn't keep going off the side of the screen where it's almost impossible to get them, because that's really quite cheap. Hagar, why aren't you dizzy yet? You should be throwing up right now by doing all those spinning pile drivers. Another very unique way of opening the gate. Oh God, I couldn't turn around. Get off! Yes, it could have done with more combat moves to relieve the monotony a little. Right, I think I'm going to wind up the review there. So that's Final Fight 2 for the Super Nintendo, an exclusive to that machine, at least at the time. It is a welcome addition that they've added the 2-player mode that was missing from the SNES version / versions of the previous game. However, one thing that is a bit of a shame is that there hasn't been a noticeable drop in challenge compared to the first game. I mean, as with the previous game, the graphics are quite nice and everything's really well drawn and so forth. And sound effects, as I said, while they're a little bit better than they were in the first game, they're still a little bit on the muddy side. And as you can see, Carlos there's got his own unique moves and so forth. Yeah, and the animation's pretty good all round, all things considered. They made and the game plays well enough. It's just that, like so many other games of its genre, the scrolling beat 'em up, it does get a bit samey after a while. They could have done with adding some more combat moves to make it to break up the monotony a bit better. Because even though you can press different directions when you've actually got a character by the scruff of the neck, it doesn't really add a huge amount of combat moves to what was already there. Although having 2 new characters to control will probably alleviate the tedium a little. It's questionable whether it'll ultimately be enough to make you keep wanting to play it long after you've completed it, and given that it seems to be noticeably easier than its predecessor, or predecessors I suppose, given it was Final Fight and Final Fight Guy on the Super Nintendo, I do wonder how long it would, or it wouldn't, depending on how you look at it, be before you completed the entire game and probably wouldn't want to play it again. So I'm going to give Final Fight 2 for the Super Nintendo. I think I'm going to give that 7 out of 10 as well. The addition of the 2-player mode is more than welcome after its disappointing omission from the previous games, but the fact that it doesn't seem to be as easy somewhat negates. Doesn't seem to be as difficult. Somewhat negates that added bonus, and it does still get a bit repetitive. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that review. Catch you on another one soon. Texie88 out.